slightly more difficult, especially when there's people in the chamber as well. So, for example, Chair, you're now live. You can commence the meeting of council.
Chair, we are now ready to commence when you are.
Good morning. Thank you very much indeed for that information. Welcome, councillors, to this meeting of the council, the first full council meeting of Bolsover District Council to take place with councillors and officers attending remotely as well as in the chamber. This is a public meeting being streamed live to YouTube and via the council's website. The meeting is also being recorded for the purposes of the minutes. I have now been advised, as you heard, that the live stream is up and running. If for any reason the public can no longer hear or see the meeting over the live stream, we will adjourn until the connection has been re-established. Can I please remind members of the meeting etiquette that has been circulated and the procedures that apply for remote attendees? All members should have their microphones muted and please their cameras turned off. If you wish to speak on an item, please indicate this by turning on your camera, but remain muted. I will then call on you at the appropriate point. I will ask the facilitator to advise me if there are any members who wish to speak that I may not have spotted, so please be patient. For members in the chamber, please ensure that you turn on your microphones to speak and you keep them very close to your mouth to ensure that you can be heard by all people, both remotely and those watching the live streaming. Can I remind members to adhere to council procedures when speaking, which apply to the virtual meeting as well? Although for those of you virtually participating, there is of course no requirement to stand, because that would lose contact with your picture and your microphone. Thank you. We will now confirm who is in attendance at this meeting, both in the chamber and remotely, for the benefit of all participants and those watching the live stream online. So in the chamber, I am joined by councillors Steve Fritchley, Duncan McGregor, Clive Mosby, Mary Dooley, Sandra Peake, Deborah Watson, Liz Smith, Derek Adams, Alan Bailey, no, sorry, he's not with us, David Dixon, Maxine Dixon, Ray Heffer, Chris Kane, Rose Bowler, and Rita Turner. In addition, we have in the chamber Karen Hansen, Director of Environment and Enforcement, and Grant Galloway, Director of Development. I will ask the Governance Manager to confirm who has joined us remotely. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Chair. Remotely in the meeting room with us are councillors Andrew Josbury, Dexter Bullock, Yvonne Parkin, Jen Wilson, Janet Tate, Tricia Clough, Tracy Cannon, Natalie Hoy, Jane Bryson, David Downs, Anne Clark, Nick Clark, Graham Parkin, Dan Salt, Jim Clifton, Ross Walker, Peter Roberts, Jim Clifton, sorry, apologies, Tom Kirkham, and James Watson. Also in attendance, you have the monitoring officer, Sarah Sternberg, members of the governance team, Jim Fieldsend, who's a solicitor to the council, Carl Apps, and Pam Brown. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Nikki. Can we now please turn to the agenda? And the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have any further apologies, please, Nikki?
No further apologies received, Chair.
Do any members know of any other apologies, please? No, thank you very much indeed. In which case, that's been noted. We'll now move on, if we may, to item number 2, which is declarations of interest. Members who have interests should have declared them to the governance manager in advance of this meeting. However, I will ask again, can members turn their cameras on if they have any interests to declare? Councillor Jen Wilson, your camera is on. Do you have an interest to declare? I don't think she does. Councillor Janet Tate, are you aware that your camera is on? Do you have an interest to declare?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, the leader, Councillor Fritchley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and good morning, colleagues, and hope you're all feeling fit and healthy. On declarations of interest, Chairman, I'd like to ask the monitoring officer, Sarah Sturberg, the solicitor to the council, to perhaps advise me on whether what sort of interest I need to declare on item 14.
Sarah, monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chair. Leader, I believe this is in relation to the fact that you're director of Dragonfly, which involves Woodheads, which involves the report you refer to. I don't consider that you need to declare anything other than a simple other interest to let people be aware that there is a connection through a different company. Thank you.
Which has already been recorded because I've asked it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, leader. Right, we'll move on, if we may please, to item 4, which is Chair's announcements. I have a couple.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you. I'll repeat. I have a couple of announcements that relate to my charitable activities. As you will hopefully recall, members and officers, my charity last year was the Just Good Friends Club, and I have terminated my work with that group for last civic year and managed to pass over a sum in excess of £2,000, and I thank members for their assistance in raising that sum, a sum that they're extremely grateful for. For the current civic year, I'm delighted to announce that I have decided for my charity to support the Bolsover branch of the Soldiers, Sailors, Airmen's Forces Association, known locally as SAFA and nationally as SAFA. I have made an initial donation of £400 to their funds, and my attachment to them arose out of meeting them whilst presenting one of their illustrious volunteers with a national certificate here at the ARC, and following that I have become myself involved as a volunteer for that organisation, and I'm currently working with about 6 or 7 different ex-service personnel who are suffering bouts of severe economic hardship and trying to raise funds to help them proceed with their lives. I trust that I can count on members' support with this new charity. Thank you for that. That is the end of my announcements. I'd now like to move on to item 4. Item 4 is the minutes of the last meeting. I've been advised, members, that there is an amendment required on page 18. If you'd like to turn to page 18. And I refer to item minute number 710, where Councillor James Watson's vote against the recommendations on the management structure proposals should have been recorded. I am advised that that will be added. Subject to that amendment, can we approve the minutes of the last meeting as a true record? I am happy to move them. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. That's been seconded by the leader. We will now move to a vote. We're going to commence voting. For those attending remotely, that will be by a poll, and that will be following the vote in the chamber. So we're going to take a vote in the chamber first, and then I will ask Nikki to run through with those attending the meeting remotely, the poll. So first of all those in favour of approving the minutes in the chamber, please indicate. Thank you. Nikki, can you now conduct the poll for remote members? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So on your screens, members, you should have a poll that's been issued to you that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 4th of March 2020 be approved as a correct record. Chair, the poll results are coming in. When they're in, I will stop them and share that with you.
Thank you.
Okay, all members should have had an opportunity to vote, so I'm going to end the polling and I'm going to share the results on the screen for you, Chair. You'll see that 18 remote members voted for and 1 against.
Thank you very much indeed. In addition, all members in the chamber voted for. So that is carried. We'll now move, if we may, to item 5, questions from the public. I am able to report that there are no questions from the public under item 5. Therefore, we can move on, if we may, to item 6, which is questions from members. I can confirm that we have one question submitted under Procedure Rule 9, and that is from Councillor James Watson, and the question is directed to the leader, Councillor Steve Fritchie, the leader of the council. Councillor James Watson, can I now invite you, please, to present your question? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. My name is James Watson and I represent Kingston on Bolsover District Council. My question to Councillor Fritchley is as follows. What executive powers, including policy, operational and other matters, does the leader of the council have over Bolsover District Council? And in particular, whether the leader of the council can and does instruct and direct officers on operational matters and can and does direct the use of non-staff resource. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Councillor Fritchie, I'll now invite you to respond.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And this is not really a question that I perhaps should be answering. It should be perhaps role of monitoring officers to make sure that the leader and scrutiny and everybody else decides I'm not of a stepping mark or acting in a ultra-virus fashion, which I can't do because I don't have that power. So what I did, I asked Sarah, our solicitor to the council and keeper of the Constitution, and I've known Sarah for a number of years, Chairman, colleagues, and we've had numerous arguments over years. I think I've always lost, Sarah's always won, and I don't think that'll change for the future. So what we've looked at Constitution, and as leader, I have no power whatsoever. I have no executive power whatsoever. I am exactly the same as everybody else. And so we've got a few notes here, a few bullet points taken from the Constitution that Sarah's provided. Leader of the council has powers in the Constitution, constitutional powers relating to process and governance rather than operational matters. The Constitution also states the individual member responsibilities, this is at 3.5 in the Constitution, the executive will be responsible for guiding the council in the formulation of its aims and objectives, Within the budget and policy framework, which is approved by council, the executive has responsibility for the implementation of the council's aims and objectives. And all of you know that because you've all read from front to back the Constitution. Each member of the executive will be involved in the activities of all the council's departments, focusing on those issues relative to the cross-cutting nature of the cabinet responsibilities they undertake. And they've been doing a damn good job. The leader of the council's role is described in Part 5 of the Constitution, and it commences, purpose, to provide effective political leadership and strategic direction for the council, to ensure effective corporate governance, to provide effective stewardship of the council, to chair the executive and ensure that it achieves its terms of reference, which we've all agreed it and reaffirmed it this past 12 months. To ensure that the council delivers high quality, value for money services. And the past 6 months, Chairman, I think we've demonstrated as a council, the people that work for council have done exactly that. And we need to praise all our staff at some time today, have it minuted. The leader's portfolio is policy, strategy, resources, and media. The leader of the council has no individual delegated powers. Therefore, he has no individual decision-making powers. He cannot individually make decisions. The leader's role is, as with members generally, strategic, not operational. Operational matters are for the directors and those of the district councils employees. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. Councillor Watson, you have the right to one supplementary question, if you so wish.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Munro. I'm a little confused by the answer given by Councillor Fritchley, given the emails that we've all received over the last few months, which appears to seemingly say that Councillor Fritchley is exercising various operational controls. So I suppose if you're limiting me to one question, then I can't list these examples, which I can supply to others on request. I suppose I then have to concentrate on just one element of that information that has been received by me, which is, I suppose, there's a whole series of these things, and it's a pity that.
Can you restrict yourself to one of those and frame a question around it, please? Thank you.
Okay, then. So I suppose then, given that the organisational structure circulated to staff by the communications officer, showing the leader in the organogram as in direct control of the officers, supported by an email from the head of paid service, which when he told me that when he exercised a delegated decision, he wouldn't do anything against the wishes of the leader, seems to suggest that the leader does have various operational control. Is that incorrect?
Would you care to respond to that, or are you happy to ask me to ask the monitoring officer?
Ask the monitoring officer, Chairman, then I'll come back.
Can I invite the monitoring officer, if possible, if you caught the question, could you possibly respond? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think I can. In terms of the organisational structure chart, there is an officer member interface. There always has been an officer member interface, and that was what the chart was showing. In terms of the head of paid services comment, it would be remiss of officers to do anything which is deliberately and directly against the wishes of the party, of the leadership. And it's not in terms of operational decisions, but it's in terms of strategy and policy that's already been decided, and not going against that as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. The leader just wishes to add further, and then we'll move on.
Now that's being dispensed with, Chairman, and we can always rely on Sarah to keep us on the straight and narrow. I'd like to take this opportunity, Chairman, to thank staff. During this past 5 months, I think everybody's worked hard. the councillors who've worked hard in their particular communities. And, you know, we tend to forget that while, you know, we've had this pandemic, while it's still going on, there's still fear and whatever in community, you know, we need to be able to provide reassurance. We need to be able to provide guidance and leadership. And the officers of this authority, I think, have done an excellent job in doing that. And a few months ago, Chairman, when I think it was one of the local lordships, were looking for nominations to single people out for doing a good job, Duncan and I decided that we'd send a thank you card to every member of our staff at this authority. And we did just that, Chairman. And, you know, that might be termed as an operational decision. I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, we've been through difficult times, Chairman, colleagues, and it's not finished yet. And you know it's not finished yet. But I think personally, we need to thank and record our thanks to all staff that have provided frontline services, working in background and everywhere else in this authority. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. And as chairman of this authority, I'd like to endorse those comments. I think we're all of us who've encountered members of our staff, not just officers, but all of our staff, right down to the staff who are out on the streets cleaning, collecting waste, etc., for the fantastic job they've done in extremely testing and difficult circumstances. And I'm sure that will be recorded in the minutes as appropriate. Thank you very much indeed. We'll now move, if we may, to item 7, which is motions. And under motions, we have 2 motions this morning in accordance with the rules council, in accordance with the council procedure rule 10. So the first motion, I'm going to invite Councillor James Watson to move the first motion. So Councillor James Watson, would you like to move the first motion, please?
Thank you, Councillor Monroe. The motion before you emanates from my experience on the Great Scrutiny Committee and its review of the sale of land at Park Avenue, Clapham. The background to this, and as confirmed in evidence given by the Director of Development, is as follows. A developer approached the council to purchase a piece of land, a very beautiful piece of land, by the way, to aid his planning application. The developer was told to approach the council again if planning permission was granted. Planning permission came before the planning committee in February 2020. There, against officer advice and the local plan, permission was granted by what I understand to be 8 votes to 6 votes. Out of the executive members who voted for the permission were Councillor Smythe, who, according to her declaration, owns property on Park Avenue. Also, Councillor McGregor, and according to the audio tape which I listened to, interrupted a planning officer from speaking, although the planning officer, after a gap, was allowed to speak. Subsequent to this decision, the Director of Development made a decision under delegated authority to sell the land. I ask you, as members of council, how does this look to the people who put us here? One arm of an organisation seemingly benefiting from another one which has a statutory power. Does this seem right to you? It doesn't to many who have approached me. I, of course, am aware that certain organisations exercise what could be seen as conflicting powers, but when they do, they usually take care to put a wall between those parts of the organisation. And that wall is usually reinforced by not having the same people of that organisation on both sides. My motion here is an attempt to bring that about. I ask you to look to the people who voted you into office first, and not your political party. They want good governance for this council, as do I, as do all of us. I ask you, therefore, to support my motion, which is thus. that council resolves that from the date when general membership of committees is next determined, that one, the number of executive members sitting on any one regulatory committee, which is planning and licensing, is limited to less than half the total number of executive members, and the leader and deputy leader of the council cannot be a member of a regulatory committee. I do ask you to support my motion, and I hope you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James Watson. Does the motion receive a seconder? Yes, Councillor Ross Walker, you wish to speak?
Could I ask for a recorded vote, please?
I'm sorry, I'm asking for a seconder.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. We're more than happy to come back to you for that, if there's for that request later, Councillor Walker. We're not quite at that stage yet. As seconder, do you wish to speak?
I'd just like to support James' fantastic idea. I think it's a way for this council to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, there will be, I'm sure, a number of councillors who wish to speak. Can I first of all, Councillor Duncan McGregor has indicated in the chamber he wishes to speak. I will now call on Duncan McGregor, Deputy Leader of the Council, to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor McGregor, representing Elton, Cresswell and Hodthorpe. The leader said that he would bring forward for debate a few motions that had been put to council on meeting schedules, statistics and remuneration. He said that we would look at this in preparation for the 2023 elections. This would mean that we would need to be looking at and consulting on proposals around 2021. However, as a result of the coronavirus and the government guidelines on working from home and attending meetings, he started to look at this earlier and from a different perspective. He recognised the genuine fear amongst members and staff alike when coming into the council offices while the pandemic is in full flow. So he asked the directors and myself to assess the benefits to the council of continued working from home. In fact, today's motions also refer to changes to governance and operational changes. Chair, I referred also to the motion from Councillor Peter Roberts in this. What I propose is a comprehensive review of the democratic process of Bolsover District Council. This will include remotely attended meetings, the encouraging of scrutiny members to play a greater part in their own geographical area, a more detailed agenda with reports, the timing of meetings and the freedom to reschedule, a report from the independent remuneration panel, a consideration to return to the committee style of governance, which would give members the power to decide as well as recommend. Currently, colleagues, Scrutiny recommends. A full report of the resource implications in what I'm proposing. I expect reports to begin coming forward by autumn for discussion. I've also asked that participation in community activities be noted. Accessibility to the public. Voting records, really important. Attendance records, absolutely important. The bare bones of these proposals will be put together by various group leaders before general debate. This will, of course, be influenced by any government legislation, including any proposal or white paper on local government reform / unitary status. Chair, I would move that the council supports my amendment to the proposed submitted by Councillor James Watson. And I think that also includes, with the support of Peter Roberts, if he would accept this, I think covers the points that he wants to make, but that will be up to him, Chair. And I also would like a recorded vote, and that is really important. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, would you just care, please, Councillor McGregor, just to repeat the wording of your amendment before I seek a seconder?
I propose that we have this council has a comprehensive review of the democratic processes of Bolsover District Council.
I now invite a seconder for the amendment.
Chair, Ray Heffer, I second Councillor.
That has been seconded by Councillor Ray Heffer. Thank you very much indeed. Right, so are there any other councillors, please, wishing to speak? Councillor Sandra Peake.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Sandra Peake, Langworth Ward. I think that's an excellent idea. You know what we're looking at, and it shows that Bolsover District Council, we're not sticking the muds, you know, and I think we can progress in these changing times. So I think it is good that we are going to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other councillors? Yes, Councillor Deborah Watson.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Deborah Watson, representing Tibshelfer and leader of the main independent group. I would support the amendment to the motion fully, and I would look forward to working closely as leader of the opposition with the leader and deputy leader on these proposals.
Thank you very much, Councillor Watson. Are there any other members wishing to speak? We have had now a request for a recorded vote. I have to be, I'm advised by officers that we need at least 3 members to request a recorded vote on the amendment, please. Thank you. Before we take the amendment, do you wish to make any further comment as the mover of the amendment, Councillor McGregor?
Can you repeat that?
Do you wish to make any further comment as the mover of the amendment?
No, I hope that both Councillor Watson and Councillor Roberts, I hope with what I've said in there will allay any fears that they may have regarding the points that they've made. There's an opportunity here for the points that Councillor Watson's made and anything that Councillor Roberts would wish to make as well. I think I'm trying to cover it comprehensively to get members involved. I fully understand, Chair, elected members should take as much of the role in the process of democratic voting in terms of what this council is going to go forward with. I've been a member of local authority for a very long time, and I've seen a lot of changes. I wasn't particularly supportive of the system which we actually operate under now. I was more supportive of a committee-styled system which brings every member in and makes them more accountable to the public. And it does save a lot of time in terms of managing the systems of which we are arriving at by the officers. So I'm hoping that Councillor Watson can see that there's plenty of room within my proposition to support it so that we can move forward as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. I'm going to depart from protocol because I believe Councillor Roberts, who has been referred to and his motion has been referred to, may wish to participate. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Councillor Roberts from Whitwell Ward. I just want to make sure that, I mean, what I put in there is because I've spoken to a few officers and they would prefer, if they could, to work from home and continue to do that in perpetuity from today, if you like. I did hear from one yesterday. She has to travel right the way down to South Normanton or wherever it is down there, just to answer the phone. Now she could do that from home. So I wanted this really to come into being as of right now. hold up. Sarah?
Right, I have two indications of wishing to speak. Do you mind, Leader, if I just bring in the monitoring officer first? Monitoring Officer Sarah Sternberg.
Thank you, Chair. We're actually dealing with the first motion. I know that the Councillor Roberts' motion has been mentioned in this, but we will have to deal with it separately, and Councillor Roberts will have an opportunity to put his motion when we deal with that motion.
Thank you.
Right, thank you then. Right, okay.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, Leader, do you wish to just say briefly, because I'd want to put it to the amendment to the vote?
Just in response to Peter's comments, Chairman. We've already put in place, we've asked the directors, heads of service, assistant directors, and what have you, and managers to look closely at the way that they operate, because I recognise, and I think this virus.
On a point of order, I'm just answering. I wish to raise a point of order.
I've not spoken before.
I'll bring you in a second, Councillor Watson.
The point made by Peter, because it affects what Peter might want to do with his motion, Chair. And, so that process regarding the staff working from home is already being considered by directors, heads of service and assistant directors, Chairman.
Councillor James Watson.
Yes, I wish to raise a point of order, which normally takes precedence and which is normally called in straight away, but we cannot hear Councillor Fritchley. When he speaks to you, Councillor Munro, it's not picked up by the microphone, and we cannot hear what he has said in the vast majority of what he's just mentioned now.
I will make sure that Councillor Fritchley does speak straight into the microphone in future.
I stand chastised, Chairman.
Right, we'll now please put the amendment to the vote.
I've got a question. Ask a question regarding the amendment, please.
It's going to be a recorded vote. We have had.
No, I know. I have a question.
Vote.
I'm struggling to hear.
You're also struggling to hear what, Councillor Fritchley or all of us?
Councillor McGregor, I've just got one question about his amendment. Will it be included that we'll be looking at times of meetings which will allow councillors of work easier access to attend meetings? I didn't catch if he included that in his amendment or not. Thank you.
Yes, that will be included as part of the discussion, Councillor Watson.
Okay.
Thank you. Right. With that assurance, we are now going to take a vote on the amendment. Right.
On a point of order, do not I have a right to reply here?
You no, because we are now going to take the amendment.
Chair, Councillor Watson is correct. As the mover of the motion, he has a right to respond.
Okay, you have the right, and my apologies, Councillor Watson, you have the right to respond. Over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Munro, and thank you, Monitoring Officer and Solicitor to the Council. With respect to the amendment that is going forward to amend my motion, what is unclear and needs to be clear, and unfortunately because of the audio, I couldn't hear fully Councillor Deborah Watson or Councillor Fritchley, is that when Councillor McGregor mentioned various group leaders, what does that actually mean? Because various could just mean two. It is absolutely imperative that if this review is going to be a proper review, and of which I will then support, that all factions of the council must be included, because this is about council. And so if we are to review the procedures, it must include all parts of council. So it must include the Conservative group, and it must include the community independents, as well as the group that styles itself the independent group and the Labour group. If that is not the case, then this review is not what it should be to set out. That is my right to reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Would you like just to respond, Councillor McGregor, speaking very clearly into your microphone?
Thank you, Chair. In regard to the time of meetings, which former councillor did mention, that was included in part of that. So I hope that he understands that. In regards the makeup of the committee or the group that I'm talking about, it is inclusive. It does include independents. It's not a political, nobody's trying to make a political stance on this. What we're trying to do in my resolution is to try and encompass everybody to be involved one way or the other. The current leader of the independents, that was the person who I was actually allude to, which would be Deborah Watson, Councillor Watson, because my assumption is that that councillor leads the majority independent group.
So, if I may, is it only Councillor Deborah Watson? What about Councillor Ross Walker and Councillor David Dixon?
Do you wish to respond, Councillor McGregor?
I was only trying to be, everybody will be involved. I'm not trying to take anybody out. There's 37 councillors. You've all got a say in what will happen here. As far as I'm concerned, I have no problem with anybody being involved in it.
So that includes Councillor Ross Walker and
Councillor
Councillor David
Watson,
Dixon.
it's no good talking across other councillors. Can you please wait? You've had your chance to respond. Councillor McGregor is now attempting to address the issues that you have raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've already tried to explain everybody would be involved in the making of where we go in the future. I only referred to Councillor Deborah Watson because Deborah Watson was the leader of the independent group there. It will make no difference to the rest of the councillors. You can all join in and be able to facilitate the hopefully a policy that can go forward for the approval. So we want everybody involved in it.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. I will now invite the monitoring officer, Sarah Sternberg, to conduct a recorded vote. Thank you. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I will read everybody's name out in alphabetical order. Please will you say if you're for, against, or wish to abstain, and this is in relation to the amendment. Okay. Derek Adams.
For.
Rose Bowler.
For.
Jane Bryson.
For.
Dexter Bullock.
For.
Tracy Cannon.
Against.
Anne Clark. Councillor Anne Clark. You may be muted, Councillor Clark.
You're not coming through, and you're still muted. You are. I can see you muted.
Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Nick Clark.
Abstain.
Councillor Jim Clifton. Councillor Clifton.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Tricia Clough.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Cooper. Councillor Paul Cooper.
That's for, Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor David Dixon.
For.
Councillor Maxine Dixon.
For.
Councillor Mary Dooley.
For.
Councillor David Downs.
For.
Councillor Steve Fritchley.
I forgot about myself then. For.
Councillor Ray Heffer.
For.
Councillor Natalie Hoy. Councillor Natalie Hoy.
Sorry, I understand. I've just had a message that she can't connect.
I will come back to Councillor Hoy. Councillor Andrew Joesbury.
4.
Councillor Chris Kane.
4.
Councillor Tom Kirkham.
Abstain.
Councillor Duncan McGregor.
4.
Councillor Clive Mosby.
4.
Councillor Tom Munro.
Or
Councillor Yvonne Parkin.
4.
Councillor Graham Parkin.
4.
Councillor Sandra Peake.
4.
Councillor Peter Roberts.
Abstain.
Councillor Dan Salt.
Against.
Councillor Liz Smith.
4.
Councillor Janet Tate. Councillor Janet Tate.
you need to unmute yourself, Janet.
Thank you. Councillor Rita Turner.
4.
Councillor Ross Walker.
Against.
Councillor Deborah Watson.
4.
Councillor James Watson.
Against.
Councillor Jen Wilson. Councillor Jen Wilson.
4.
And Councillor Hoy, have you been able to rejoin?
No, Sarah, she's not present.
Okay, we'll have to take the vote on what we have. If you allow us a minute, we'll calculate it.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chair. The amendment is carried 25 for, 4 against and 5 abstentions.
Right, just in case members did not hear, the amendment has been carried by 25 votes for, 4 against and 5 abstentions. The amendment now becomes a substantive motion, and I will now ask, please, by a show of hands in the chamber, all those in favour of the now substantive motion, which is the amendment you've just voted on. Please indicate all those in favour. That's unanimous in the chamber. Can I now ask Nikki to conduct a poll vote of those voting remotely, please, using the same system? So those voting remotely, just to be absolutely clear for you, you are now voting on the new substantive motion, which is the amendment, the result of which I have just been through. I'm now inviting Nikki to run you through the poll, which is for, against, or abstain. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Chair. We don't have a poll set up as this is an amendment, so this would be a show of hands.
Okay, in which case, could you all please turn on your cameras, members working remotely? Thank you. Right, I can see on my screen at the moment, I can see a total of 21. Does that make sense to you, Nikki?
Yes, Chair, I can see that almost all members have their cameras on. I'm just
Right,
asking
okay.
Councillor Anne Clark to start her video.
Okay, so if you please indicate, all those in favour, please raise your hand so that it's in front of your face so that we can see it on screen, please. All those in favour. I can count 8, Nikki.
No, I have more than that, Chair.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, no, that's correct, Chair. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lower your hands. All those against, please raise your hand clearly.
That's 4, Chair. 5.
Thank you. All those wishing to abstain now, please raise your hands.
And 4 abstentions.
Thank you. 4 abstentions. Are you able to process the overall result? It's clearly carried.
Yes, Chair, the vote's carried.
Thank you very much indeed. We now move on to 7B. And I will invite Councillor Peter Roberts to move the second motion, and for the information of those who may not have received the second post, Councillor Roberts' motion is not as set out in your original papers. I trust, Councillor Roberts, that you will read out your newly worded motion when you speak to it. Yeah. Councillor Roberts.
Councillor Roberts, Whitwell Ward, that the council resolves that the ability to work from home becomes normal practice for officers and councillors if they request it and where appropriate. As with all my motions, I haven't got a seconder, so somebody will have to back it up. I just think it's a better work balance, working from home. People, you can take your kids to work a bit easier, school easier, and various other things. It's better for the environment. It cuts down on travel expenses between people running up and down between our various offices and calling meetings. We can all do that from home. And it's more productive, so they're saying, anecdotally saying it's more productive. So if we could back that, I would be most pleased. And I would like it to start as of immediate, if we could. I'm a bit concerned about this other one. I did actually prefer the motion as it stood by James, but because I was brought in, I feel a bit cheated, to be honest. However, we are where we are. So if you could back it up, somebody, please, and let me know. Thank you very much.
It appears to have a seconder. Councillor Dan Salt has indicated first he wishes to second the motion. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Right, so you have the motion. We'll just read it to you again. The council resolves that the ability to work from home becomes normal practice for officers and councillors if they request it and where it is appropriate. So are there any, first of all, can I just ask if there are any members of the council in the chamber who wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Duncan McGregor first.
Chair, Councillor McGregor, representing Elmton, Cresswell and Hodsall. I believe that, as I said, when I read my amendment out on the previous one by Councillor Watson, that it did cover the points that I felt would cover in Councillor Roberts' resolution, or the amendment to Councillor Roberts. What he's put forward on his motion. We have to look at the working from home because the policy currently has not, we've got a current policy that's not been carried out effectively because of the disease that's hit the country. And we might not actually be working according to that, our own policy. So we do have to look the policy anyway of working from home. In reference to some members of staff that Councillor Roberts has spoke to, I can say that other members of staff have already said that they were desperate to get back to work because they felt that that was, from their point of view, that was a good thing. Now, my resolution, which has now been approved, can cover many of the discussions which Councillor Roberts has said. And that will be coming forward, and it could be exactly what he's talking about, but I can find it's within the resolution that I feel is within the resolutions that I've passed. Everybody will have an opportunity to be able to put the case forward, which will include the type of thing of which Councillor Roberts has already expressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Councillor Anne Clark. Remember, please, to unmute yourself first.
No, sorry.
You're unmuted, Councillor Anne Clark. Oh, you don't wish to speak, sorry.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Ross Walker?
Instead of moulding and trying to alter people's agendas, motions all the time, could we for once just let Pete have a motion go through without being messed about? I fully support him and I will do. And I hope that the rest of the council will. Thank you.
Yeah. Sarah, did you wish to come in at this stage?
No, Chair, no.
Right, well, if I may then, are there any other members wishing to speak before I speak? Councillor Liz Smith in the channel, then I'll come to you, Councillor James Watson. Councillor Liz Smith.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, you know, you can't make changes like this overnight, immediately. You have to do it in consultation with everybody that works here, everybody who's a member here. And that's why I think it's a good idea to do it in a process which is a review, and then everybody's views can be taken into consideration. And that's why I would support doing it under a review. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor James Watson.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. Councillor James Watson, Pinkston Ward. With respect to what Councillor Smythe has just said, if she reads motion in detail, it says becomes, which incorporates her point about not changing things overnight. So I support Councillor Roberts in his motion, and I think that if this motion can go through, it shows the indication and the direction of travel of the council, which I think is a very a good way to do so. So I fully support Councillor Robertson's motion, and I hope others do, and I hope others don't try to amend it either. Thank you.
Thank you. I will, if I may, depart from the norm. I'm bringing Councillor McGregor first, and then I'll add my comment.
Thank you, Chair. It's really, really important, colleagues, to understand you should not be doing what is a decision at this stage without full consultation. There are members of staff. We had the leader on earlier on about how their staff have been brilliant through all the period that we've got on. They have a right to be able to their voice to be heard. And there is the other thing called trade unions. They're already involved as well in the discussions. So I appeal to you to give consideration, use your head and not your heart, and consider the staff that are here. They're entitled to a view, and you should be putting that forward to them. That would be included in the resolution which I mentioned previously. Thank you.
Councillor David Dixon.
Yeah, I believe that it should be done through a consultation process. I think to do it haphazardly, I think is the wrong way. So definitely through the consultation process. And can I just add a technical point, please? Would Nikki please allow Natalie Hoy back in? She's unfortunately she lost contact, so she now needs to be let back in, please. Thank you.
Did you,
yes,
did you hear that, Nikki?
I did. We're just trying to resolve Councillor Hoy's issues.
Thank you. I would just, from the chair, like to say that I wholeheartedly endorse the comments made by Councillor Dixon and by Councillor Smith. This is not a strategic matter, which is what members should be about. This is an organisational matter. What we should be requiring as part of the agreed amendment, which we agreed previously, is that it be subject to a properly conducted review, which, as Councillor McGregor has quite rightly indicated, has to involve all staff involved. That's all of our employees and all of the relevant union bodies in a consultation exercise. And that part of the amendment that was previously agreed, it will come forward and it will then be for members to either ask challenging questions as it's developed and then to ultimately agree that new policy. Right, are there any other people wishing to speak? Right, Duncan, would you care, are you going to move an amendment, Duncan?
Yeah, I'm going to move an amendment.
Okay, McGregor, Councillor McGregor.
I'm asking colleagues to, my amendment is to reiterate what I've already previously, and that we propose a comprehensive review of the democratic process of boards of district council, which would include working at home.
Does the amendment receive a seconder? Yes, Councillor Liz Smith. Right, Councillor Roberts, you now reserve the right of reply. I'll now invite in Councillor Roberts.
I just want to know how long it would take, I suppose, that's the main thing. And why can't we just do what we're doing now and just ask them immediately, if not sooner, via a Zoom call and just ask them if they prefer and just have a vote on it? It doesn't seem to make, it doesn't seem to make a jot of difference to me whether we did it now or later. But we do need to do it. It's not, we're doing it now, so why can't we do it for the future? It doesn't make any sense what we're saying. We're going to postpone it till August, September, January, whenever. We could do it now. And it's just a question of just asking them. It's dead easy, I would have thought. I mean, we could ask a few now because they're in the chamber. Do they want to work from home? Yes or no? It's that simple.
Right, but thank you for those concluding remarks. I'm now going to put the amendment. David Downs.
Sorry, I was just wanting to come in on that about what Councillor Roberts was saying.
On a point of order. As
Yes,
not the
Councillor
amendment
Watson,
discussion
you're quite
closed.
right. We should be moving to the vote. I'm sorry, Councillor Downs. We now have to take the vote on the amendment because Councillor Roberts has had the right of reply, and therefore we need to go to the vote.
So there's no discussion on that.
I ignored you initially. Please turn your mic off. Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay. So all those in favour, all those in favour of the amendment in the chamber, please indicate. Sarah, that is unanimous in the chamber. We'll now move to those voting remotely, and we'll do it by show of hands. All those in favour of the amendment, please show. I can see 8.
9.
9, thank you. All those against voting remotely?
That's 5.
Yes, I concur. Abstentions?
3, Chair.
Thank you. So that is the
That's 4, Chair. Apologies.
So the amendment is carried. That now becomes a substantive motion. All those in the chamber in favour of the substantive motion, which is the amendment. That's unanimous. All those voting remotely, I nearly said revolting, my apologies. Please indicate. All those in favour? I think that's 9 again. All those against?
5 against, Chair.
5 again, and abstentions? That's 4.
4.
Thank you very much indeed. That's carried. We'll move on now, if we may please, to item 8. Thank you very much indeed. Right. Item 8 is political balance review and changes to committee seats. We will now consider the changes to appointments to committees and advisory groups following a review of political balance as a result of group changes. You have received supplementary papers showing the changes that have been proposed. I am going one at a time to invite group leaders to speak and move for their respective groups, right? Unless there are any further amendments, please, which I don't believe. I think there have been some further amendments, but I think it might be helpful if the leaders of those groups deal with those as we go through. So I'm going to start, if I may, with Councillor Clive Mosby, who will speak on behalf of the Labour group. And in your pack of papers, we are dealing with the documentation from pages 20 to 28. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Councillor Clive Mosby, Blackwell Ward. I am actually working, obviously, from the updated appendix, which has come through on the supplementary papers. So, as regards, we did on general licensing, we did, was going to lose one in the original, but that stays as it is. So that stays as it is. When we move to the planning committee, we'd like to remove Councillor Steve Fritchley off the planning committee. Over the page, on the Union Employee Consultation Committee, we'd like to remove Rita Turner, Councillor Rita Turner. On the Healthy, Safe, Clean and Green Scrutiny Committee, we would like to nominate Councillor Rose Bowler becomes another member on there from the Labour group. I think with that, Chair, that completes it for the Labour group.
Thank you very much indeed. Can I now invite Councillor Deborah Watson to speak on behalf of her independent group?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Deborah Watson. Our amended positions are as listed in the new sheets that you've been given. However, we have one further change this morning, if we may, please. In place of Councillor Yvonne Parkin, who's listed as on planning, we would like to replace Yvonne with Councillor Ray Heffer on the planning.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor David Dixon, are you impacted by any of these changes, your group?
No, we're quite all right. All the names have been listed.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Ross Walker, are you wishing to contribute on this, please?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind to tell you the truth. I've not received an updated paperwork. So shall I run through what we're going to do, or do you want to tell me what I've decided?
Yes, please. If you'd run through, and I'm sure the monitoring officer will guide you if there is any conflict there.
General Licensing and Gambling Acts Committee would like to add Alan Bailey. Planning Committee like to remove Graham Parkin. Safety Visits Panel would like to add Graham Parkin to that. Union Employee Consultation Committee, I'd like to leave Graham on there and I'll move off of that. New Bolsover Joint Committee, remove Alan Bailey. And I think that's us. If we could just check with Sarah, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Walker. Sarah?
Just give me a moment, Chair. I'm just checking.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. That's fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Mosby, do you wish to propose all of those changes you've heard?
Yeah, on behalf of the Labour Group submissions, I'd certainly propose those changes outlined earlier.
Thank
Chair.
you. And Councillor Parkin wishes to second that. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Graham.
No,
Parkin.
I want to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Parkin. I wasn't aware that you wanted to speak. Will members please bear with me? I'm going to allow Councillor Graham Parkin to speak. Councillor Parkin.
Councillor Parkin from South Normanton. I'm rather unhappy about being removed from the planning committee. I attend all the meetings and the site visits, and I've not been consulted on it. I would sooner have come off the joint bowls over joint committees than the planning group. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
But given what we've just heard, Sarah, would it make sense to accept everything with the exception of those that impact on Councillor Graham Parkin and to defer those final decisions to the next council meeting?
Chair, it is for the party groups to put the nominations forward to council. Council can do nothing other than accept what the party group puts forward. So it therefore be for the leader of the relevant group to say what they would like to do.
Councillor Ross Walker, would you like to comment, please, so we can move forward? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. No, I'm quite happy with the changes I've made. Thanks.
What does that actually imply? Are you going to
go ahead
reverse
with the
what you
changes I've
said?
just made.
Sorry?
I'm going ahead with the changes I've made.
Okay, so it's been proposed by Councillor Mosby. Does it receive a second from one of the other groups, please? Councillor Deborah Watson seconded. Thank you. Right. Oh, we're at little ping pong. That's interesting. Is that relevant?
I
Nikki,
think that may be Councillor Natalie Hoy joining the meeting.
Oh, welcome, Councillor Natalie Hoy. Glad you've rejoined us. Right, all those in favour in the chamber of the proposed changes to the makeup of the various committees and groups, please show. All those in favour. That is unanimous in the chamber, right? Those voting remotely, all those in favour of the proposed changes, please vote. By show of hands. Oh, it keeps jumping about. It's Natalie Hoy joining us. Have we got a count?
I see 15. I see 15 for, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. All those against? I think that's one. Are there any abstentions?
2, Chair.
That's fair enough. Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much indeed. We'll now move on, if we may, to item 9. And item 9 is appointment of Vice Chair for the Health, Safety, Clean and Green Scrutiny Commission. I'll come to you in a second, Councillor Mosby. Just a reminder that when we come to a vote on this item, only non-executive members, i.e. scrutiny members, are permitted to vote on this item. Right, so Councillor Mosby.
Yeah, could I just seek clarification there from Monitor Officer? Being I'm an executive member, am I still allowed to move a member for the Vice Chair of the Clean and Green Scrutiny Committee?
Chair, there's nothing official in the Constitution to that effect, so yes, Councillor Mosby can move it.
Councillor Mosby then.
Appreciate that, Sarah. Thanks so much indeed. So in light of that, I'd like to move Councillor Anne Clark as the Vice Chair of the Health, Safe, Clean and Green Community Scrutiny Committee.
Does that receive a seconder, please, from a scrutiny member? Yes, Councillor David Downs. Thank you. Right. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chair of Clean Green Scrutiny Committee? Yes, Councillor David Dixon.
I would like to nominate Councillor Natalie Hoy.
Thank you. Does that receive a seconder? Yes, that's been seconded by Councillor Maxine Dixon. Thank you very much indeed. Are there any further nominations, please? Councillor James Watson, do you wish to make a nomination? No, thank you. Right. So we have two nominations, being Councillor Anne Clark and Councillor Maxine Dixon. Oh, my apologies. I'm sorry. Natalie Hoy. The job is up for grabs. No, it's not really. Okay. Sarah, given that we are voting for individuals, are we okay to proceed with a normal show of hands?
Yes, Chair.
Right. So in the chamber initially, please, all those in favour of Councillor Anne Clark, please show. I can count 4. Right. All those in favour within the chamber of Councillor Natalie Hoy. That is also 4. Thank you. We now come to the remote voting, and you will see that Nikki has put up on your screens a poll vote. So could you either vote for Councillor Anne Clark or Councillor Natalie Hoy, and do it now, please. Oh, I feel like a telepresenter.
I've no poll come up. So can I vote for whoever, whenever?
Could we ensure that all members have the poll come up, please, including Councillor Roberts at Whitwell?
Yeah, I can reissue the poll for you, Chair.
Thank you. If necessary, please reissue it so that Councillor Roberts also gets the poll.
Chair, that's been reissued.
Thank you. Sorry, you now need to vote.
Chair, Councillor Hoy is indicating her wish to speak.
Councillor Hoy, do you wish to speak?
Could the poll be sent again, please?
Yes, I can redo that for you. Right, reissuing poll now.
Can all members voting remotely now see the poll? Yes, I think they can. I'm not seeing anybody say no. Right.
Chair, that should be all members remotely voting, and the poll now, I'll share the results for you, with 12 votes for Councillor Anne Clark and 7 votes for Natalie Hoy.
Right. Given that there was equal in the chamber, I now declare Councillor Anne Clark elected Vice Chair of the Healthy, Safe, Clean and Green Scrutiny Committee. And we'll move on, if we may, to item 10. Item 10 is the Member Development Annual Report, and I'd now like to invite Councillor Sandra Peake to present the Member Development Annual Report. Councillor Sandra Peake. Turn your mic on and remember, please, to stand up and lift your mic up and speak into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sandra Peake, Langworth Ward. The purpose of the report for the annual report is to enable Council to consider the member development work that is undertaken during the municipal year 2019-20. You've got the report details in front of you. We've had lots of training, lots of councillors have attended, and we've got some really good comments. So that's all I've got to say, really, Chair. It's quite explanatory. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Sandra Peake. Does anybody have, any members have any questions to the report at this stage? Councillor James Watson.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. I would like to ask a question to Councillor Peake regarding the member development strategy. Whether any consideration has been given to having enhanced chairing skills available to serving chairs. What perhaps, and has certainly been reflected to me from members of the public across the country actually, is perhaps chairing skills in this authority need to be improved, and therefore has consideration been given to running an enhanced chairing skills programme at all? Thank you.
Councillor Peake.
Thank you, Councillor P. Yes, we have had some training on chairing skills, and I'm sure we can look at it again. I don't think many attended actually, but we have had some chairing skills because I think we did it jointly on the same day with North East Derbyshire. We had one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, thank you. Could you make sure your mics are off, thank you, and your cameras are off if you're not speaking, thank you. Right, the recommendations are on page 30 at 6.1. Councillor Peake, are you intending to move the recommendation?
Councillor Peake, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation that Council note the Member Development Annual Report 219 to 220.
Does that receive a second? Yes, Councillor Ray Heffer.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour in the chamber, please indicate. That's unanimous. You have now a poll. Hopefully you can all see that, those of you working remotely. Please ensure you're voting.
That's 18 for, 1 abstention.
Thank you. So that's carried. Move on then, please, to item 11, which is contract procedure rules. And I'm now going to invite, who I believe is joining us remotely, he is Jim Fieldsend, solicitor from the council's legal team, to present the report on the contract procedure rules on behalf of the chair of the Standards Committee. So, Jim.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Yes. Good morning, members. So the report at item 11 is a report seeking recommendation to make amendments to the council's contract procedure rules. For members who aren't aware of what these are, these form part of the Constitution, and they govern how every single contract that the council awards is governed. That includes service contracts, building contracts, and purchase of equipment. So the recommendations have been put forward following advice from audit, the audit section, to carry out a review. So we carried out a review, and we've come up with the proposed amendments that are shown on the appendix to this report. These have been approved by the Standards Committee a couple of weeks ago. There are a couple of additional amendments to the proposed changes. The first one was put forward by Standards Committee itself, and this was to ensure that when an officer makes a decision which is published by way of delegated decision, that the actual procurement route is explained fully within that decision notice. The second additional change, which is referred to in the report, relates to the threshold for when documents are either signed by an officer or sealed by using the council's official seal. there is a conflict in the current contract procedure rules where one of the sections says the threshold should be £50,000, whereas another section states that it should be £75,000. This should have been picked up when we carried out the additional review, but it was missed at the time. We are, however, suggesting that the procedure rules should state throughout that the threshold should be £75,000. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Right, thank you very much indeed, Jim, for your report. Do any members, either in the chamber or working remotely, wish to ask the Solicitor for the Council, Jim Fieldsend, any questions on this report? No, nobody's indicated. Thank you very much indeed. I'll now hand over to Councillor Mosby.
Yeah, in the absence of the independent chair, Ruth Jeffries, I think her name was, isn't it? I should know really. I'd like to formally move the recommendation at 6.1 on page 42 and thank Jim for the report that he's given, which obviously outlines some of the changes that are in there and the work that we do on Standards Committee. So I'll formally move the recommendations, Chair.
Thank you. And it's been offered a second, the chip from?
Councillor Deborah Watson, I'll second that.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been moved and seconded. Nikki, are we on a poll here, possibly, please, to vote?
Yes, we are. We're ready to go, Chair.
Right, so we'll take the vote in the chamber first. All those in favour of the recommendations in the report, please show. That's unanimous. Nikki, over to you with a poll, please.
Poll's now live, Chair. That's all in favour, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Then that's carried. Right. Before we actually make a start on item 12, which is the next item being exclusion of the public, that means the public part of this meeting has now come to an end, and the live stream in a second will be stopped. So that because the next few items of business are held in private session because they contain financial information not in the public interest to disclose. However, before we have the vote on the exclusion of the public, I would like to say to all of you goodbye and thank you for taking
on
the
a point
time
of order, on a point of order, Chair, I request a recorded vote for when we go into exclusion.
We haven't yet gone into
no, but you're saying goodbye to the public and they have a right to see that we vote to go into exclusion.
We will say finally goodbye to the public after we've had the vote. Thank you. I'll continue. Before we have the vote on the exclusion of the public, I'd like, as I was about to say goodbye and thank you to you for watching. You have a few more seconds whilst we take the vote at item 12. So, at item 12, there is the motion to move that the public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion of the following items of business to avoid the disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972 as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006. So, can I have a proposer, please?
Chair, I'd like
Councillor.
a recorded vote, please.
Yes, well, can we get to that in a second? We're still at the stage of finding a mover and a seconder.
Thank you.
Councillor McGregor, second.
Thank you. Can I just remind members working remotely that you have been given quite clear instructions on how to conduct yourself within the meeting. It would help if you followed those instructions. Thank you. Right. We have now had a request, 2 requests for a recorded vote. In order for the vote to be recorded, we have to have more than 2. We have to have at least 3. There's not a third one being requested. I will therefore now move to the vote. All those in the chamber in favour, please show. That's unanimous. All those voting remotely, you now have a poll. Please vote.
That's 13 for, 4 against, 1 abstention, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Then that is carried. And now formally to members of the public, thank you for your time. Have a good day.